Welcome back to our channel, Soap Fans. Today is a phenomenal day to dive deep into the scandalous, high-stakes world of Los Angeles fashion and family feuds. We have some explosive updates that will change everything. Let's get right into the drama. The heavy, mahogany doors of the Forrester mansion slamming shut sounded less like wood striking wood and more like a gavel pounding down on a death sentence. Fate and high-stakes consequences have finally collided in the most brutal way imaginable, setting the stage for a catastrophic fallout that will shake the very foundations of Los Angeles. Katie Logan Spencer stands alone on the sprawling stone driveway, the echo of her sister's vicious rejection ringing in her ears like a physical blow. This is not just a petty family squabble over a fashion line or a temporary disagreement. This is an execution of the Logan sisterhood. Brooke Logan Forrester and Donna Logan Forrester have officially banished their youngest sister, drawing a permanent, unforgiving line in the sand and leaving Katie completely isolated. But as the tears fall and the crushing weight of this ultimate betrayal sets in, a far more terrifying threat is looming on the horizon. The relentless, toxic stress of this corporate bloodbath is about to trigger a massive medical emergency that could leave Katie fighting for her life and force her sisters to face the ultimate, devastating reckoning. To understand the sheer magnitude of this impending disaster, we have to look at the absolute brutality of the confrontation that just took place inside those mansion walls. Brooke Logan Forrester stood her ground with a feral, vindictive fire burning in her eyes. The matriarch has completely transformed into a calculating, ruthless corporate warrior who views her own flesh and blood not as a sister, but as a dangerous enemy. Brooke is entirely consumed by the narrative that Katie maliciously poached Hope Logan, tearing her daughter away from Forrester Creations to build the rival Logan Designs empire. In Brooke's mind, Katie's ambition is an unforgivable act of treason. She unleashed decades of suppressed resentment, screaming at Katie that the war has only just begun and officially disowning her without a single ounce of hesitation. The sheer venom in Brooke's voice was designed to destroy, and it hit its target with lethal precision. Standing silently behind Brooke's wrath was Donna Logan Forrester, trapped in a paralyzing nightmare of her own making. Donna's complicity in this banishment is a dagger straight to Katie's back, but Donna is operating under a terrifying ultimatum. Eric Forrester, the battered and humiliated patriarch, is currently nursing a bruised jaw and a shattered ego courtesy of a violent punch from Katie's son, Will Spencer. Eric has laid down the absolute law. Donna must cut all ties with the Spencers, or he will serve her with divorce papers. Terrified of losing her luxurious life, her security, and the man she loves, Donna chose her marriage over her blood. She watched with averted eyes as Brooke verbally decimated their baby sister, sacrificing Katie on the altar of the Forrester legacy. Donna's silence spoke volumes, sealing Katie's fate and locking her out of the family forever. Every single step Katie takes away from the sprawling Forrester estate feels like walking through suffocating quicksand. The cold Los Angeles wind bites at her tear-stained cheeks as she desperately tries to process the sheer magnitude of what has just occurred. She came to the mansion to wave a white flag, to beg for peace, and to apologize for the collateral damage of her ambition. She wanted to heal the fractured family dynamics before they reached a point of no return. Instead, she was met with a ruthless firing squad. Katie has spent her entire life fighting to step out of Brooke's towering shadow, battling the perception that she is the weak or sick sister. Logan Designs was supposed to be her ultimate triumph, her moment to claim her own independent legacy. But the devastating cost of stepping into the light has been the complete and total destruction of her family. As Katie reaches the heavy iron gates of the estate, the psychological agony begins to manifest into a terrifying, undeniable physical reality. The soap opera audience knows all too well that Katie's heart is a fragile, borrowed organ with a tragic history. Her brother, Storm Logan, sacrificed his own life, putting a gun to his head so that Katie could have his heart and survive. That heart has endured rejections, transplants, and unimaginable grief, but it has never been tested quite like this. The toxic stress of being disowned by the very sisters Storm died to protect is acting as a lethal poison in her veins. The tension in Katie's jaw tightens into a suffocating grip. A sudden, blinding pain shoots down her left arm, and her breath becomes dangerously shallow. The relentless pounding in her chest is a horrifying warning sign that her body is rapidly failing under the sheer weight of emotional devastation. The world suddenly tilts violently on its axis. The majestic, manicured lawns of the Forrester estate blur into a dizzying, chaotic smear of green and gray. Katie clutches her chest, her fingers digging desperately into her designer coat as she falls hard to her knees on the cold, unforgiving stone driveway. She gasps for air that simply refuses to fill her lungs. The sheer irony is as cruel as it is tragic. The Logan sisters are literally breaking the very heart that their brother died to give her. As her vision begins to fade to black, Katie collapses entirely, her fragile form crumbling onto the gravel. The corporate warfare, the stolen designs, the bitter rivalries, it all instantly evaporates, replaced by the terrifying, silent reality of a woman dying alone outside the gates of the family that just threw her away. The discovery of her lifeless body will set off a chain reaction of absolute panic and high-stakes chaos. A Forrester security guard making his routine rounds will spot the collapsed figure on the driveway, his frantic radio calls shattering the pristine silence of the Bel Air neighborhood. The wail of ambulance sirens will soon pierce the air, a horrifying soundtrack to the ultimate family tragedy. Paramedics will rush the scene, deploying defibrillators and shouting desperate orders as they fight to stabilize a woman whose heart is giving out under the sheer weight of her sister's cruelty. The frantic, high-speed ambulance ride to the emergency room will be a life-or-death race against the clock, with Katie clinging to the absolute edge of existence. Inside the opulent walls of the Forrester mansion, the shrill, piercing ring of the telephone will cut through the heavy, toxic silence. Brooke, still simmering with self-righteous anger and pride over defending her daughter's honor, will answer the call with a sharp, authoritative tone. But the voice on the other end of the line will deliver news so chilling, so incomprehensibly horrifying, that the phone will slip from her trembling fingers. The color will instantly drain from Brooke's face as the feral, vindictive corporate warrior shatters into a million pieces, instantly replaced by a terrified, guilt-ridden sister. The sudden, horrifying realization of what their absolute cruelty has wrought will hit Brooke like a freight train, knocking the breath from her lungs. Donna's reaction will be one of pure, unadulterated devastation. The crushing wave of guilt will bring her to her knees as she realizes the true, lethal cost of her loyalty to Eric Forrester. She sacrificed her baby sister to save her marriage, and now that sacrifice might be permanent. The tears, the blind panic, the desperate, frantic rush to the hospital will blur together in a nightmare of regret. Donna will be forced to look at her husband, the man who demanded this separation, and wonder if the Forrester wealth and status were truly worth the life of her own flesh and blood. The dynamic of her marriage will be permanently fractured by the blood on their hands. Across town, the news will hit the Spencer empire like a devastating, apocalyptic earthquake. Bill Spencer, currently riding high on his smug victory and gloating over the media coverage of Eric's meltdown, will receive the call that brings the billionaire to his knees. Dollar Bill's arrogant, calculating demeanor will instantly vanish, replaced by the terrifying wrath of a desperate man. His fury will be legendary, a dark, uncontrollable storm of vengeance. He will blame Brooke. He will blame Rich. He will blame the entire Forrester dynasty for pushing the mother of his child to the brink of death. If Katie does not survive this medical crisis, Bill Spencer will burn the Forrester empire to the ground, salting the earth so nothing can ever grow there again. Will Spencer's agony will be an entirely different, deeply tragic spectacle. The young Spencer heir is already reeling from his own catastrophic, reckless mistakes, punching Eric Forrester in a blind rage, permanently betraying Elektra, and waking up in a haze of regret next to a smug Melissa Dillon. Now, Will is faced with the horrifying prospect of losing his mother. The guilt will consume him entirely, pushing him to the absolute edge of his sanity. He will realize that his violent actions contributed to the toxic environment that broke his mother's heart. Will's downward spiral will accelerate into a dangerous, unpredictable trajectory as he paces the hospital corridors, desperate for a miracle and hungry for someone to blame. The hospital waiting room is destined to become ground zero for the ultimate, explosive family collision. The Forresters and the Spencers will be forced into the same sterile, fluorescent-lit room, the tension thick enough to cut with a scalpel. Ridge Forrester will attempt to manage the escalating chaos, standing as a barrier between a feral Bill Spencer and a shattered Brooke. Steffi Forrester Finnegan, who just declared open war on Hope, will watch the devastating fallout of this corporate bloodbath, realizing that the collateral damage of their fashion feud has crossed a line into life and death. The bitter rivalries over runway shows and stolen designs will suddenly feel sickeningly trivial against the backdrop of the flashing red lights of the ICU monitors. Brooke's inevitable bedside vigil will be a masterclass in soap opera tragedy. Standing by the sterile hospital bed, staring down at the fragile, pale form of the sister she'd just viciously discarded, Brooke will be forced to confront the darkest, ugliest parts of her own soul. The rhythmic, mechanical hiss of the ventilator will be the only sound in the room as Brooke begs for forgiveness, her tears staining the crisp white sheets. She will desperately promise that the war is over, that the family can be healed, and that she will do anything to make it right. But Brooke's apologies may be falling on deaf ears, spoken to a woman who is slipping further and further away into the darkness. This catastrophic medical crisis is the ultimate, explosive reset button for the bold and the beautiful canvas. It forces every single character to abruptly halt their scheming and reevaluate their loyalties, their blinding anger, and their twisted priorities. It is a brilliant, tragic twist that stops the corporate war dead in its tracks, replacing boardroom battles with a desperate fight for survival. The Logan's sisterhood, once the unbreakable emotional core of the show, has been shattered into a million jagged pieces, and it will take a literal miracle to put it back together. Will Katie survive this devastating physical and emotional collapse? Or will the Forrester-Spencer war claim its ultimate, tragic victim? Next, the collision was inevitable, a catastrophic intersection of vulnerability and calculated opportunism that is about to blow the Spencer and Forrester families wide open. Well, Spencer's self-destructive spiral has finally culminated in a moment of reckless passion, and the shockwaves from this single night threaten to obliterate his entire future. The beach house has become ground zero for a scandal of epic proportions, and the fallout is going to be absolutely devastating for everyone caught in the blast radius. In the explosive July 24th episode, the suffocating tension inside the beach house finally snapped. Well, Spencer, a man drowning in the severe consequences of his own violent actions, reached his absolute breaking point. Stripping off his shirt in a moment of raw, unbridled frustration and vulnerability, he surrendered to the immediate, dangerous comfort of Melissa Dillon. The scene was electric, charged with the kind of desperate heat that only comes when a man feels he has lost everything else in his life. The makeout session on the kitchen counter was intense, frantic, and loaded with years of unspoken tension. Dillon, who has been waiting in the wings for exactly this kind of opening, did not hesitate to pull Will closer. When Will lifted her off the counter and deposited her onto the couch, the passionate moments only escalated, pushing them dangerously close to the point of no return. But as the screen faded to black, Fans were left screaming at their televisions, entirely unsure of how far this midnight rendezvous actually went. The morning after is shrouded in heavy, agonizing ambiguity. Will and Dylan wake up with their clothes still partially on, leaving a massive question mark hanging in the salty Malibu air. Did they actually seal the deal, or did Will pull back at the very last second? The uncertainty is a brilliant, torturous narrative device, designed to keep the audience guessing while setting the stage for a massive psychological showdown. Will is trapped in a purgatory of his own making, unsure of what he has truly committed to, while Dylan holds all the cards. We have seen this exact playbook executed before on The Bold and the Beautiful. Remember the intense build-up between Dylan and R.J. Forrester? The show heavily teased that they were going to hit the sheets, only to reveal that they stopped short of going all the way that night. The precedent has been set, and it is entirely possible that Will and Dylan hit the brakes before crossing the ultimate line. However, Will is not R.J. Will is a Spencer, and Spencers historically operate on pure, unchecked impulse when their backs are against the wall. Even if they did not fully strip down, the emotional and physical boundary has been shattered into a million pieces. The intimacy of that counter-makeout session is a betrayal in itself, a permanent stain on Will's desperate attempts to prove his loyalty to Electra Forrester. Whether they did the deed or simply lingered in the dangerous territory of a near miss, the damage is already done. Dylan has successfully inserted herself into the deepest, most vulnerable part of Will's life, and she is not going to walk away quietly. Electra Forrester is about to unleash a storm of righteous wrath that Los Angeles has never seen. The Forrester princess is no fool. She knows Will better than anyone, and her intuition is razor sharp. When she finally comes face to face with Dylan for a heated confrontation, Electra will instantly sense that something fundamental has shifted. The guilt, the tension, the unspoken history of that night at the beach house will be written all over Dylan's face, and Electra is going to demand the absolute truth. The impending showdown between Electra and Dylan is guaranteed to be a masterclass in soap opera tension. Dylan is going to make a massive, game-changing admission. She is not the type to cower or hide behind half-truths when cornered. Dylan will likely look Electra dead in the eye and drop the bomb about her passionate encounter with Will. This admission will not just be a confession. It will be a territorial claim, a declaration that Will Spencer is no longer solely Electra's property. Electra's reaction will be nothing short of volcanic. To be betrayed by the man she loves is one thing, but to be betrayed with a woman who has been hovering in her orbit, pretending to be a friend, is the ultimate knife in the back. Electra's fury will echo through the halls of Forrester Creations, shattering whatever fragile peace remained between the younger generation. But Electra's wrath might be entirely eclipsed by an even darker, more permanent consequence looming on the horizon. What if Dylan's big admission goes far beyond a simple makeout session? The rumor mill is spinning out of control with the terrifying possibility that Dylan might have some massive baby drama brewing. A surprise pregnancy would be the ultimate, inescapable trap for Will Spencer. If Dylan finds herself pregnant with a Spencer heir, the entire narrative shifts from a messy love triangle to a high-stakes dynastic war. A baby changes everything, and Dylan knows exactly how much power a child yields in this town. A pregnancy would permanently, irrevocably tie Melissa Dylan to the Spencer clan. Bill Spencer, who values family loyalty and legacy above all else, would immediately circle the wagons around Dylan and the unborn child, regardless of the scandalous circumstances of its conception. Will would be forced to step up, trapped by his own sense of duty and the suffocating pressure of the Spencer name. Dylan would instantly transform from a temporary distraction into a permanent fixture in Will's life, securing her place in the upper echelons of Los Angeles society. For Electra, a Dylan pregnancy would be the absolute final nail in the coffin of her relationship with Will. She could perhaps forgive a drunken mistake or a moment of weakness, but she cannot compete with a child. A baby would dash any lingering desperate hopes of a Will and Elektra reunion, forcing Elektra to completely walk away from the man she thought was her destiny. The psychological devastation of watching another woman carry Will's child would push Elektra to her absolute breaking point. Will Spencer's life has devolved into a constant, suffocating mess, and this potential pregnancy is the ultimate curveball. He is already facing immense pressure from his violent outbursts, the corporate war between Forrester and Logan, and the crushing weight of his family's expectations. Adding a surprise baby into this volatile mix is like throwing gasoline onto a raging inferno. Will is completely unequipped to handle the emotional and logistical nightmare of a surprise pregnancy, especially with a woman he used as a rebound. This terrifying scenario forces us to look back at Will's deeply traumatic history with manipulative women. Will is a magnet for this specific brand of disaster. We absolutely cannot forget the absolute nightmare he endured with Luna Nozawa. Before her fatal accident, Luna committed a string of truly evil, diabolical acts, manipulating everyone around her to serve her own twisted agenda. Luna weaponized her circumstances, using the threat of pregnancy and deep, emotional manipulation to trap Will in a web of lies and deceit. Luna's evil actions left a permanent scar on Will's psyche, teaching him the hard way that intimacy can be weaponized. Now, history seems to be repeating itself in the most cruel, twisted way imaginable. Is Dylan pulling a page straight out of Luna Nozawa's dark playbook? While Dylan may not possess Luna's sociopathic tendencies, the opportunistic timing of this potential pregnancy is highly suspicious. Will is once again finding himself trapped by a woman who knows exactly how to exploit his moments of weakness. The parallels between Luna and Dylan are impossible to ignore, and the psychological toll on Will is going to be catastrophic. He thought he had survived the worst of it when Luna died, but the ghost of her manipulation still haunts his every move. If Dylan is indeed pregnant, Will is going to experience a severe trauma response, terrified that he is once again being used as a pawn in a much larger, more sinister game. The Spencer heir is trapped in a vicious cycle of betrayal, and there seems to be no way out. The corporate fallout from this baby bombshell will be equally explosive. Dylan is currently employed at Forrester Creations, working directly under the watchful, judgmental eyes of Steffi and Ridge Forrester. The revelation that their employee is carrying the child of their sworn enemy, Spencer, will trigger a massive HR nightmare. Steffi, who already despises the Spencers, will undoubtedly view Dylan's pregnancy as a hostile infiltration, a Spencer spy growing right in the heart of the Forrester empire. Elektra, forced to work in the same building as the woman carrying her ex-boyfriend's child, will face a daily, agonizing torment. The tension in the Forrester design rooms will be thick enough to cut with a knife, bleeding into the ongoing fashion war against Logan. Ridge will demand that Dylan be fired, while Bill Spencer will threaten massive legal retaliation if the mother of his grandchild is mistreated. The unborn baby will become the newest, most volatile weapon in the ongoing Spencer-Forrester corporate war. While Spencer is entirely out of options. He tried to fight for his future. He tried to prove his loyalty, but one night of reckless passion on a beach house counter has sealed his fate. The tragedy of Will and Elektra is that they were ultimately destroyed not by a lack of love, but by the relentless, opportunistic interference of those around them. As Elektra prepares to unleash her righteous fury, and Dylan holds the ultimate trump card, the stage is set for a showdown that will leave no survivors. Will Dylan's shocking admission confirm a permanent Spencer heir? Or is this just another cruel manipulation designed to destroy Elektra forever? Drop your wildest theories in the comments below, hit that subscribe button, and don't miss a single scandalous update.